Oh, all right, all right, all right. Afwan, everyone, Afwan. Madobe. This is Nana Togo Masia Blakluta Fiada du Fira. And I am shooting out to you guys once again live from sunny, kinda Anchorage, Alaska. Temple Mami Dan Densu of North America, an adjunct of Temple Mami Dan Densu of Lome. Mm. Uh, Hold on a second, I gotta fix this lighting. Ah, all right, yeah, that's way better. Okay, so it's been a minute. It's been a minute, I know, uh, and I love to find out what you guys have been doing. But this is what I've been doing. Um, since the last communication, and I think the last communication, I was out and about and fussing about, you know, trying to teach me, coming to me for lessons, but trying to teach me as you learn from me. Anyway, that doesn't work. I don't know how other people are doing it, but I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna do that. What will I do? Well, I will teach. I will tell you everything I know, or everything I know to be good to tell everybody out there in the world. Um, I think I got this fixed before. Oh, it is fixed. Okay, cool. The heck? Well, I am all gummed up today. Okay, so what's been going on, and why did I pick the topic? Scammers, Aze, and Yewevodou. Um, there was a couple of reasons that I decided to do this. First and foremost, there's a lot of misinformation out there about what voodoo is and what it isn't. And I had just answered a question on Quora. Y'all know I'm on Quora all the time. Um, I just answered a question on Quora, and the question was to the effect of, um, what's the difference? What no? What are some of the confusion things? What is some of the confusion about hoodoo and voodoo, and how do we know the difference? And something like that, right? And I had to be honest, y'all. I'm 100%. I tell you right off the bat, I am not in hoodoo. I don't know anything about hoodoo. Everything I know about hoodoo, you can find out about hoodoo because everything I know about hoodoo came out of a book, right? And anybody who knows me knows that I'm a firm believer. In fact, I've got hard evidence that um, anything concerning uh, ATR of any kind has to go through the filter, has to go through the gatekeeper of the same people who told us that it was a criminal concept, a criminal enterprise. It's from the devil, and this, that, and the third. And I personally do not subscribe to any. I don't suggest anyone subscribe to a filter that has already demonized you right out the bat, right? Um, African philosophy is demonized. African faith is demonized. African culture is demonized. And any African diaspora expression of those things are demonized. And so you can look at it if you want to out of a book. If you want to do that, you can. And I'm certain there's information out there. The best way to the best way to tell a lie is to make it mostly true. All right. If you tell a lie that is mostly the truth, then you succeed in providing some validation for what it is you have to say. All right. Even though you're telling the untruth, um, it seems valid because, well, this part is true, and if this part is true, and if these two parts is true, why wouldn't the third part be true? The third part wouldn't be true because you're lying about it, but that's not it. So I don't do it, right? I feel like I am not mature enough in my spiritual practice to filter through all of the deceptions, and I'm a priest. And I find myself looking at these different things, and every time I look at it and think I got a handle on it, I look at it again and I'm like, oh no, this is wrong too, you know. Or somebody older and wiser brings it to my attention. Okay, you've been saying this, and this much has been the truth, but this much has not been. And then I got to go back and I got to retract and um, put good info out and whatever. But I'm paid to do that, right? So to speak. Yeah. It's my job. I am Unan and I'm Ngansi and I'm Nana. Togbe. So I got to get these lumps. That's why I'm really careful about what I put out to people. All right. I'm really careful what I put out, what I get on here and I say, because if I do that, then you, as the end user, the end consumer, don't know that I'm telling you the truth. If I keep, if I mess up once or twice, that's okay, right? If I mess up once or twice, I'm human. It happens. If I'm constantly messing up, then at some point in time, y'all got to say, look, do you know anything? So if I say something, it's because I've had it researched front and back and gone through personal experience and everything, and I know it to be true. Um, and I've had it verified and validated by my seniors and my elders, and so now we all know it's the truth. But if I don't say anything, if I defer or I demur, it doesn't mean I don't know anything about it. It means that I have not had it validated to the point where I know without question, without equivocation, that what I'm about to say is the truth. Right? Because I only had to have egg on my face twice before I was good with it. I'm good. I don't need no more egg. I'm good. Um. So with that being the case, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of disinformation out there. And I wanted to set some of these records straight. But in addition to the bad supply of information, in addition to that, there are bad actors, men and women who intentionally uh, misrepresent the traditions. And they do it for monetary gain or spiritual gain in some cases. Um, and again, us folks on the ground, we need to know what that is. We need to know what that looks like. We need to know how to separate the wheat from the chaff, right? What's good and what's not good, and how to take these things apart. So that is what sparked today's conversation. That's what it's going to be about, and hopefully, this conversation can continue in your home communities. It is my intention that this does not go on for longer than, I was going to say 15 minutes, but I'm already darn near 10 minutes in. So it's my intention that this doesn't go on for longer than 20, 25 minutes, okay? Maybe half an hour if, everything in the universe conspires against me. So what are the difference between these things? Okay, first off, I'm not going to use the word witchcraft, right? Isaiah and Azeto and witchcraft are terms that have been used interchangeably, and I don't know that it is particularly fair to do so given the stigmas and the efforts of our European indigenous brothers and sisters who are either members of surviving traditions or trying desperately to reclaim that which they lost. Okay. Anybody who knows me knows that I subscribe to the idea that it has never been black versus white. It has been a matter of those with power suppressing the power in the masses. Um, I've always subscribed to the idea that blacks in Americas in the Americas have been treated so poorly, so that they can so that so that we could help the power structure keep white folks in line. And I'll gladly get into that conversation a little bit later. So, long story short, though, so to avoid confusing um, ideas because of poorly worded uh, concepts, I will demur to the use of my indigenous language, and instead of calling them witches, which might indicate Wiccans or other people following their own indigenous paths, even African Americans, or even I'm not an African American, even Africans in the diaspora who are reintroducing themselves organically to the spirit world instead of indicting them with the pejorative use of the word witchcraft and witches. I will instead use the specific aze, azewo, and talk about witches that way, or evil workers of evil spiritualities. I'll use that way, and that way there won't be no confusion. And if you later on decide to identify yourself as the Aze, now look, that's you being very specific. You're very specifically identifying yourself with uh, a person who works evil in the community through spiritual and medicinal means, and that's a totally different conversation. That's you admitting to being an evil person, and well, if that's what you want to own, that's what you decided to own. That's different. But at least I'm not going to make that decision for you by being imprecise in my speech. You see what I'm saying? So let's talk about what voodoo is. Okay, so voodoo, as I've said before, is a spiritual tradition. It has different names among different people. The Yoruba call them Orisha. The Akan, they call him Abombe. Some, I'm sorry. And you go different places in Africa, according to the language and the culture of the people, the name is going to be different. That's okay, right? The spirits will be different. That too is okay. Even if they're similar, they're not the same. Because in the end, it's the exact same practices. Veneration of your ancestors, the worship of one God, venerations of your ancestors as the direct blood link between you and the one God, and veneration of the spirits as the viceroys, ministers, and representatives of the one God as expressed through the elements and the abstracts of human enterprise. And all of these things bear out according to your traditions modes of divination. Okay, be it Afufui, Opele, Auga, Obe, whatever it is. Uh, I know there's some folks that actually use bones, whatever it is. I'm not judging that. The efficacy of their own, whatever. I know what I use. Three of the four that I just mentioned are the ones that I use. Um, and that fourth one that I don't personally use, I go to somebody who does to get to exercise the powers that are present there. It is gonna take me a long time to do this. So I'm so wordy. But all African traditions are this way. So whether I personally, I don't like dragging it out. African traditional religions or ATRs. I just say voodoo. Be done with it. Because voodoo is Yewevodou is the tradition I use. Is what I do. So I don't mess it up. I just say voodoo. So if I say voodoo, unless I specifically say something different, I mean all of us in ATR. Because there's certain things that are the same everywhere you go on the continent, right? In fact, there's certain things that are the same everywhere you go in the world if you're dealing with the indigenous practices of the people. Right? You got those world faiths or those faiths that have been tied to a government, and those are different. Those are all the ones that say there's only one way to go, and that's my way, right? But the indigenous ways, they don't say that. Look, don't take my word for it. Go look. You catch hell trying to find books on these things. Go look at Shinto, um, Korea, Japan, Korea, uh, Mongolia, Native America, North or South. Um, Look at Greece, Ireland, Germany. You look anywhere, the Oceanian islands. Look anywhere where the spiritual tradition is not married to the government, to the imperial government, but are instead validating of the local leadership, and the same power that validates the king, validates the father, the power that validates the queen, validates the mother. When you see that, that is indigenous. That's indigenous. And those all do the exact same thing. They got the spirits of nature and human enterprise acting as ministers of heaven, and you have the ancestors being a direct link back to the creator of all things, the only God in the entire pantheon. They'll all be called gods, but the only God in the entire pantheon is the one thing that everybody looks at like you can't understand that. And so anyway, that's what voodoo is, right? So if I'm talking about Asia, India, whatever, I'm talking about voodoo. I'm talking about the same thing. So that's what that is, though. That's what voodoo is. Voodoo is the practice of being in tune with that. And the purpose of that attunement is not because the gods is worthy of worship and veneration or anything like that. It's so that you got guaranteed success in your endeavors, right? You have a season to be successful, and you have a season of failure, and you have a season to produce, and a season of transition, right? These things are given. You're going to have them. There are going to be times where everything is great, and there are going to be times when everything is horrible. And in all of this, you will go through cycles of growth and life and death and rebirth, right? Birth, life, death, and rebirth, right? You'll go through these cycles throughout your whole life, and this is by design. This is to set up a understanding of bigger and more diverse mysteries. All right. But this is to ensure your success and your worthiness of success, and not for God to know that you're worthy of success, but for you to understand what that means. This is the process of becoming great. This is the process of becoming great. And that's why you have voodoo. That's why God invented it, right? So that you could understand the process of becoming great. Let me let that sink in for a minute, because we all go through this process. But in voodoo, you're taught to understand the process, and there are things that are incomprehensible. And that's because the process of cerebrally understanding certain things is an attempt to bring things down to its coarsest, its lowest denominator, its coarsest expression, right? Visible light and invisible light are the same things, but visible light illuminates that which you can see, but not everything that's there. Does that make sense? If not, don't worry about it. It's not that it's beyond you, it's that you're just using the wrong faculty to try to understand it. And that's okay too. You know, we go through these phases in our lives where we understand things more than we understand others. Okay. Geez, this time is getting away from me. I'm in 22 minutes already. Um, okay. But that's the purpose of voodoo, right? Not to bring luck, not to bring fortune, not to bring money, not to bring love, not to bring all these great things. These things come, health. These things come in accordance to destiny, the process of you becoming great. These things come, these things go in accordance to destiny, the process of you becoming great. That too is okay. Uh, but voodoo is understanding the process, and where you have wiggle room of how that process is expressed, some ability to affect the outcome of that process, of that destiny. How do you get the most beneficial, the best, the most enjoyable, or the most uh, profitable in the long run outcomes for yourself, right? Because there are some destinies that are facilitated by you having a good life. There are some destinies that are impeded by you having a good life, an easy life, a life with lots of money and women and excess. Right? Some lives are facilitated by that, others are impeded by that. Um, you already knew which would be best for you, and you agreed to that before you came here. And now, uh, since that happened so daggone long ago, you don't remember the answer to that. So the voodoos are here to help remind you, right? Not to feed your current ego, but to satisfy the real you, satisfy the needs of the real you. Here's the thing. Azeto and Buduvu, or well, these things are not about taking care of that. Quite the contrary. Voodoo is about satisfying uh, your desires through your material desires through spiritual means. And Aze is about giving voice to your darker desires through your through your spiritual means. Um, and both of these cause problems for the individual. However, the average Westerner, and whether you consider yourself African, Moorish, white, whatever you consider yourself, you are a Westerner because that's where you was brought up at. More than likely, if you was brought up in Togo or Benin, or Cameroon or Tanzania, that might be different. That's a different statement. But if you was brought up in either the Americas or Europe, then more than likely your thinking is Western. Hell, some places in Africa, your thinking is Western. But your thinking is Western, and it's okay. It's okay. Uh, you have to deal with who you are as you are. If you want to get to be who you wish you were. So growing up in this place, we don't know that there's a difference between Isaac, because we're taught voodoo grant you your wishes. It's wishful. Genies. Ohunan can curse your enemies and bless your friends. No Unan of wisdom will do that. Well, we'll curse at least. We'll bless your friends. No problem. No, we won't. We won't curse your enemies. We won't attempt to control someone against to act against their individual wills. We won't attempt to do that because even when we have the power to, we know that balance is fragile. That person has their own destiny that they need to be meeting. And for any Hunan to reach out there and try to change that for somebody else so that you can get what you want, we know that invites disasters. That's why we have a lot of the problems we have in the mother continent as it is, because there have been those who reach further than their grasp would actually allow or should have allowed them to reach. The Aze will cause pain and suffering on your behalf. And anger can be righteous. Vengeance can be righteous. But humans have a problem with this thing called excess. We don't know when to stop. We don't know when to stop when it's a good thing, and we don't know when to stop when it's a bad thing. Right? Regardless of how much discipline you have, there comes a point in time when you don't know when to stop. So these things are supposed to be left to the wisdom of the spirits, because those guys are going to talk, and they know how far to go and how far not to go, and they have the wisdom to do that. And the reason they have the wisdom to do that because they have the perspective necessary. They ain't dealing with just how they feel or just how you feel. These things factor. But that's not their primary concern. Their primary concern is harmony. The harmony of the universe operating according to the way it's supposed to. That's their primary purpose. That's their primary focus. And they want to do that in the way that's most profitable for the spirit, for the people that they belong to. or the person that they belong to. That's what your spirits want to do. But voodoo doesn't know that and doesn't care. And the Aze might know that and they might care. But if they do, it's because they want it to go as badly as possible for everybody involved, secretly, even for themselves. Because Aze ultimately is the death wish. Ultimately, Azeto is the desire to be destroyed, a little bit at a time or all at once. That is ultimately what Aze is. Now, that's